Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Saja Manning, right?
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm April Martinez.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
Yes. How are you, Marlene?
Good. Kind of nippy outside. I stepped outside. I'm like, okay, didn't expect that.
Colder than we anticipated, but it wasn't foggy, it wasn't rainy, it was just right.
Yeah.
I think.
This is our winter weather here in Belize. I'll take that over snow anytime.
Snow is pretty the first day, and then after that.
But yeah, of course, we'll be checking in on our weather shortly, finding out what we can expect. We know there have been some showers, so we'll see if that continues into today. But of course, lots going on in the country.
Oh my gosh, I think that the news was jam-packed yesterday, from COVID to crime to police meters to parking meters to schools reopening and the anxiety, because some schools have reopened and then some schools have not, and then I think certain schools are still monitoring the COVID cases closely. But I know you have your opinions. I have mine. But in
everyone does.
In all
They're
fairness,
like parents pro, parents against, and you know, I think it's a tough time. It's adapt to what's happening as we go along. We heard CEO Diane Mejia talking about the situation that's been, floating all over social media, that schools have detected cases, and she plead that people don't kind of get into panic mode.
Yeah, I wonder how. I guess you'd have to monitor the schools that have already reopened and see what tactics they're taking. But I wonder how they schedule themselves out. I wonder how parents take their kids to school and not be crowded in that first day, and how they pick them up. And, kids will be kids. Eventually, you can't monitor a whole bunch of them, and then they start to run wrong. And what do you do then?
Well, they've been really, I've talked with a few school administrators, those who are deciding or have decided to open. And, the interesting fact is that these plans, a lot of these plans, not all of them, were put in place from, I think it was 2020, when there was the first attempt at reopening schools. So it was shift system, which means because our classes are so overcrowded, 30 to 40 students, you have to have half at a time.
Yeah.
And so they go on a shift, most for half a day. What a lot of schools seem to be doing to mitigate exactly what you talk about, like all parents and kids come at once, is they designate separate entrances for different, like primary school for divisions, in high school, upper and lower forms. And they kind of use that as a systemic way of getting people in. I know some schools have talked about parents not being able to go beyond the gate. So the child has to just go right into the class. There's no playtime. So that's pretty rigid for children. They go and they sit in their chair and wait for classes to start.
But I think they've already been used to it, because when they've done the online, it's not really, they have to sit there in front of their computer and do their work, and then maybe they get like 10 minutes break to just drink water, eat your snack, and then come right back. It's not playtime.
Yeah.
So maybe
and
that's
it's
different.
just the circumstances of the time we're living in. I mean, you can't have them playing, because if it's little ones, they'll be running around all over the place. If it's older ones, they'll be engaging in conversations, and the eating part is a high risk part, because you're going to take off your mask.
The spread of this virus is very interesting to me, because some people say, oh, but I've never gone anywhere. I've not been out. I don't do anything. I don't go anywhere. And I still contracted this virus. So I often think that, a little cough or just taking your mask, drinking water, you never know how you're going to get it. So the best thing is to just try your best to take
Yeah.
as much precaution and get vaccinated and get your booster, because I know people don't believe in it. A lot of people don't believe in it, but it does help.
Yeah. It helps in what we know now, and what we're being told is, unfortunately, you can still get it even if you're vaccinated and boosted. That's the Omicron variant. But what it does is reduce your chances of getting very severe symptoms. High-risk people will be high-risk people no matter the circumstances. So that's just like an added layer of protection that you have that will hopefully help you.
Yeah, and this disease, this virus, sorry, it also affects children.
Yeah.
You know, there's no age range anymore. There's no, oh, the elderly will get
Yeah.
sick, or, you know, everyone can contract this disease.
Yeah.
So we just have to be careful.
What the World Health Organization is trying to do now, which is really interesting, is kind of, you know, because there's this message and the information, which is accurate, you know, is going out saying that so far it's milder than the variants we've seen before. That they're trying to, because there was this viral TikTok, I don't know if you know that, but this bride-to-be didn't want to test positive before her wedding, so she went out deliberately trying to catch Omicron. This is in the United States, not in Belize. And yeah, so she was like drinking from other people's cups, didn't wear a mask, and I mean, people were it was everywhere. But it's a part of what people are thinking with, I'm just going to catch it and get it over with, but you just don't know.
But it's not like chicken pox where you
Yeah.
get it once and you can't get it again. You
Yeah.
can get it multiple times.
Yeah. Or it's not a flu. Like,
No.
you know, flus carry a risk. People can get bronchitis, pneumonia. They can be hospitalized. These things do happen. Not as frequently as we see with COVID.
Yeah, I was watching a segment on CNN last night where they said that since the Omicron has milder symptoms, it doesn't affect them as harshly as the Delta variant did. If they're wondering if they should just treat it like a flu now and just get
Yeah.
back to normal, but the reality is that this virus mutates
Yeah.
so quickly that sure, Omicron could be milder, but then what if the next variant is worse
Yeah.
than Delta? So you just have to try to be cautious and
Keep
know.
on playing. I told Paul yesterday, it's like MMA fighter. It's like
Yeah.
dodge, duck. So because there is it. I don't know what you're finding in Belmopan, but it's just, you know, the cases are popping up. Yesterday was over 800,
Yes.
Which is a lot.
It's a lot, but you know, that positive girl in me for the new year is trying to say it's less than 1,000. So you know, maybe we're getting there. No, that's
Okay.
the holiday rush.
I'm gonna ground you for a second here with what we know. What we know is that this is the beginning of a wave, and the wave has to peak, so it has to go up, reach, you know, the maximum amount of people who will have it in this particular wave. So we will see more cases.
And I just have to remind for our viewers that yes, it seems small compared to other larger countries, but our population is not big. Our population is very small. So
Yeah.
1,000 cases a day is a high percentage for us. So we have to try our best to minimize that.
And that really is going to be the turning point for us when people start to, you know, I get it. I hear people saying, well, what are we going to do? And okay, lock down the country. We saw what happened with that. And we know more about the disease now than at that time when it was really scary. They didn't know how to treat. They didn't know how it affected the body. So we know more now. And the way it spreads, it's all the same. It's us. It's what we do and don't do, and the precautions. And it's not to shame or guilt anybody who does get it, because it's just that transmissible. I know people who have not left, and it's, you know, someone who comes into the house who brings it. Not necessarily family. It could be, you know, a delivery man. It could be someone who comes in to do some work for you. It happens.
And I mean, we are humans. We sometimes tend to forget. So something as simple as giving somebody cash, that, you know, you don't disinfect your groceries, you don't disinfect your money. You know, it's not something that is within your memory to always have to do. So somebody could give you money that has the virus contained in it, and you touch your face, you eat something. You know, it's not something that doesn't come without taking extra precautions. So all we can do is try our best to just adapt to the situation, because it's not just you, it's everyone around you.
Yeah, yeah. And, as we keep saying, this is going to be an ongoing situation. And I'm interested to see how the rollout of school will continue. I know yesterday's report made people very worried. And parents who maybe had been on the fence are second guessing again. But if you talk to the little ones, they're happy to be back.
Oh, I'm sure. I know for a fact that they just want to see their friends. They just want to be outside. But I always
Not
think
really
that,
interested in the schooling part at all.
No, because, school is school. I don't know about you. If you liked school as a kid, I don't know if anybody liked school as a kid. But that was the part that everyone loved, the social interaction. And that's what we were talking about last week, right? What the social skills would be like for kids that have never been to school. And that's something to see as well.
Yeah.
I want somebody to do a research paper on that.
Yeah, that probably will be.
Yeah.
And I think will be, the implications of this pandemic, it will be long lasting, past our time here on Earth. You'll be talking about what the elderly who lived through the pandemic endure many years later.
Yeah.
So that is something that I think we just have to accept. But in the meantime, it's trying to catch up on these educational gaps. One of the things that concerns me a lot, and I know it's on the radar of different organizations, including the Ministry of Education and Human Development, but that's the kids who aren't going back to school. And we have a reality to accept that some children, unfortunately, may have fallen out of the system during this distance learning. And for many different reasons. It could be accessibility. And I always say to people, it's not that they have electricity or internet at home or one device, but April, if you're a parent and you have 3 children on one device, you have to prioritize who'll get it first, who'll have more access. Assistance from parents at home. There's one Belize City school that I spoke to said they have a large population of Spanish-speaking parents, and those parents can't help the children.
Yeah.
So the children are left to learn on their own. So the disparity that grows with the children who have parents at home who can help them and coach them through and reinforce their lessons, versus those who are either fending for themselves, too busy babysitting the littler kids, starting to work, or just not having that level of supervision to be able to get the work done. I mean, that's concerning to me, and I think that's the catch-up that's going to be critical for us.
I think that there was apart from that, I have to talk about the resilience of certain students.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember the name of the young man that won the laptop, but he said that since the beginning of COVID, he was doing all of his schoolwork on a phone.
Yeah.
And despite all of those circumstances, he was still able to keep his grades up and so forth. And he was awarded a laptop by the Ministry of Education. Right?
Yeah.
So you do have certain students that will, whatever, by all means, try. But I always talk about the students that are in the rural areas. I think those are the ones that are the most concerning for me. Not because they don't have device, or not because of the parents, but there is no electricity.
Yeah.
There is no means of doing any kind of online work.
Yeah. So it is, and that's going to be a part of the process as we go back into school, as we maneuver our way into how best to get the children back to some face-to-face contact. I hope it's going to be assessed and then followed through with.
Teachers
Lots
have
of
their,
remedial
the
work.
teachers have their work cut out for them.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I saw certain teachers getting their equipment, their face shield, their mask. They have to wear gloves. It's and then I don't know if you walked into any of the classrooms. It peeled. Like they can't have any posters. They can't have anything that would be remotely a place where a student would like to sit and learn. It's all just walls and a blackboard. So.
All right, but that is an ongoing situation, and we will keep monitoring it. But we got to get moving into our show for today, and we're going to shift gears and give you some motivation to start your day right. So this is time for your eye opener. And your eye opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Apologizing chronically can be a sign that you are not feeling that you have much self-worth. Many people suffer with the tendency to apologize all the time, chronically, for everything. On the one hand, apologizing is a social convention that keeps interaction between people polite. And in that way, it can be very helpful. On the other hand, if we find ourselves apologizing for everything, it might be time to look at why we feel compelled to say I'm sorry so often. Ultimately, saying you're sorry is saying that you are responsible for something that has gone wrong in the situation. There are other times when excuse me is more accurate. Sometimes saying you're sorry is like saying that the other person in the equation has more of a right to be here than you do. Of course, it's true that using the word sorry can simply be an innocuous way of diffusing tension. However, if you find that you say sorry all the time, you might want to look a little deeper and see where in your psyche that might be coming from. It is a pattern. Breaking it may simply take some awareness and practice.
Oh, I never thought of it that way. I say sorry for everything.
Well, now you know.
Now I know,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this one.
Well, we work on my family. We talked about this before, and we work on it with the little ones because they do just naturally. I'm sorry. And you know, it's a mental construct, and I think that sometimes we have patterns that seem okay, but may actually change a meaning within us as to what kind of accountability we need to have in all situations. So for me, I think it's, and you know what, women do it more than men.
Wow. That says a lot about the patriarchy in our society, but I don't want to go there this morning, Marlene. No, but I do think that for some instances, it's better to say, like, I like the part where it says it's better to say, excuse me sometimes instead of saying, I'm sorry, because that gives you some kind of blame that you don't really have.
Yeah.
Wow. I know, right?
Right?
Where's Jenny today?
Yeah. we'll leave you to soak that one in a while. All right, but we got to get moving into our weather update. And as we said, there should be some rain, but we will tell you what you can expect. Or general situation for today is for relatively moist northeasterly airflow prevailing over the area.
A moist northeasterly
And our 24-hour
airflow
forecast.
Yeah, our
prevails over the
24-hour
area.
forecast says that it's going to be cloudy at times tonight and sunny with cloudy spells tomorrow. A few showers and isolated thunderstorms will affect mainly offshore and some coastal areas tonight and tomorrow morning, with isolated showers elsewhere. Tomorrow afternoon, a few showers will develop over central and southern portions of the mainland and seas.
All right, our winds are going to be moving from the north to northeast, and the sea state will be choppy. Our highs for today are going to be 82 along the coast, 84 inland, and 71 in the hills.
Right, and our lows are going to be 72 on the coast, 65 inland, and 60 in the hills.
All right, the outlook for Thursday night and Friday, cloudy spells with a few showers, mainly offshore and over southern coastal areas, Thursday night and Friday morning. And we want to thank our forecaster, Derek Redun, for putting that together for us.
It's going to be a good weekend, it looks like.
Yeah, nice and cozy.
Nice,
That's
nice
good.
weather. Yeah.
It's indoor time all the time now, so
Nice as
there
well.
we go.
But it looks like it's going to be a little bit warm sometimes, a little bit sunny sometimes, and weather is so unpredictable.
Yep. That's right.
Okay.
Well, we got to get moving into the show, and here's what we're going to be talking about for today. Our Circle, it's the LGBT NGO, and they have written an open letter to the minister, the new Minister of Religious Affairs. He made some comments, and they are asking for clarification. They're saying they're concerned about what it means for the discrimination that their population faces. So you're going to be hearing more from the board president and managing director, as to whether or not they've gotten a response and why they chose to publish the letter so that people would see what was said.
Yeah, and then we're going to be talking to the Belize Crime Observatory and their core partner agencies to discuss the 2021 trends in their work. They're going to be giving us a little bit of data that they've collected and they've compiled by the Belize Crime Observatory. And via Zoom, we're going to be having the executive director, the officer commanding superintendent of prisons, and the project coordinator. So it's going to be a very, very full conversation, that second segment of ours.
Yeah, I always love finding out the real data that has been collected to find out what we're seeing with the crime trends.
Yeah.
And then start your year with new skills. Yesterday we were learning about playing the violin, and today we're going to be testing those artistic skills.
Therapeutic.
Yeah, so Kirkland Smith offers art lessons for all ages and different levels of experience. He's been an art teacher for a really long time, so he's going to be talking to us about how you can get engaged in some of his classes. Some are online, some are face-to-face, and also what the benefits are of learning to express yourself through art.
Awesome. I'm excited for that one.
Great. So we're going to go ahead and take that break. We got a birthday shout out though, so we're saying happy birthday to
Javier Molina. Happy birthday, Javier, from all of us here at Open Your Eyes. We hope you have a wonderful birthday today. Blessings.
We're going to go ahead and take that break then, and when we come back, we'll be talking to our circle. So please stay tuned.
It's almost lunchtime and Alice is getting hungry and forgot to bring cash. She remembers that eCash now has a geolocation feature in which she can easily view the eCash merchants near her, especially restaurants. Her co-workers also ask her to order food for them.
Chicken chow mein, please, and a Coke.
The merchant sends her the payment link. She taps confirm, and within a few minutes, her food is delivered. Alice then views her transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made. Then taps the split the bill button where she selects the unevenly option and moves the bar to the desired amount per person. The request is then sent to her friends. Her colleagues accept the request and are ready to enjoy their meals. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash make Alice's life a whole lot easier.
Stream as you go with SmartStream Video on Demand. Coming soon.
The Social Security Board, in collaboration with the Labor Department, takes this opportunity to remind insured persons of the requirements for compensation when on sick leave. Any employee who has worked with an employer for at least 2 months is entitled to 16 working days of sick leave with full pay every year. This is how it works. Upon approval of a sickness or injury benefit claim by SSB, 80% of the employee's weekly insurable earnings is paid as a Social Security benefit, and the difference in the employee's salary is paid by the employer. This is to ensure that the employee does not suffer any loss of wages when ill. After 16 days, compensation for sick leave is paid as a Social Security benefit only. Some conditions apply. This message is brought to you by the Social Security Board and the Labor Department. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's daily obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind the scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
Been drinking all night, feeling so high. Better not drive, won't even try.
Been drinking all night, feeling so high. Better not drive, ain't gonna try. Been drinking all night, feeling so high. Better not drive, ain't gonna try. If you're drinking and driving, I'm not going with ya. If you're drinking and driving, I'm not going with ya. People die every day, I'm not going with ya. I'ma find my own way, I'm not going with ya. It's okay, I'll wait. Even good people make mistakes. I don't wanna realize when it's too late. Drinking and driving is never safe. If you're drinking and driving, I'm not going with ya. If you're drinking and driving, I'm not going with ya. Been drinking all night, feeling so high. Better not drive, ain't gonna try. Been drinking all night, feeling so high. Better not drive, ain't gonna try.
Right now, the vaccine trials do not show where the COVID vaccine makes any pre-existing conditions worse. In fact, persons with preconditions, medical conditions, that mean that if they get the disease, they are more likely to get a severe disease and are at risk of death. Persons who are obese, have chronic lung problems, cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, or any other serious disease, they are protected from developing the complications of severe COVID. So it is better to take the vaccine even if you have medical comorbidities or preconditions.
back. We are here with our first conversation this morning via Zoom. We have our two special guests from our circle. We have Ms. Dericia Castillo Salazar, who is the Managing Director of our circle. And we also have via Zoom Ms. Danae Fairweather, who is the Board President. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here with us this morning. How are you?
I guess we're as okay as we can be, seeing that we're still navigating this pandemic.
Right.
Right.
Isn't that the truth? All right. But that's not the conversation we're having today, right? But we're grateful to have you. Of course, the letter that you issued, that you published yesterday, has been a topic of conversation. And of course, people they have questions. And so we want to ask you those questions this morning. But let's just start off with a bit of background about our circle and what you do. Dericia?
Our circle is an organization that works with LGBT farmed families. LGBT farmed families meaning that one or more adults within that family identify as a part of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender community. So our circle was actually created out of the need for the visibility of these LGBT farmed families, as well as the visibility of LGBT couples. As we've mentioned on numerous occasions when we've done our outreach and speak on our organizations, legally we don't exist in this country. We are just at a point where terminologies such as diverse families, rainbow families are being used in public spaces. So our circle has a resource center where we try to link our beneficiaries or clients to resources which are available and are inclusive to LGBT persons throughout the entire country. Some of them are even linked to services in the region. So pretty much in a nutshell, our circle works to support LGBT farmed families here in Belize and those who wish to have those families.
Yeah. How many people would you say you represent?
In total, we would say as our regular clients, it would be over 120 LGBT farmed families. And those families would be made up of 2 or more LGBT persons, and sometimes even their children. And we reclaim the term family by not necessarily saying you have to have children to be considered a family. So when we speak of family, we're not associating all of them with children. We are also speaking on couples, LGBT couples, who have committed to each other and are in what they consider or what they would define serious relationships.
Yeah. So, let's dive into the issue here, because one of the things in your letter that you cited, and I know that LGBT organizations have been trying to collect data over the years about discrimination that they have faced and how they have fallen victims of crimes due to their status. And I want to talk about that first, because where you first start with children and how they are discriminated. Explain to us, what you have documented as discrimination that the LGBT families have suffered.
Well, when it comes to the discrimination that is imposed on our children, it pretty much goes from a legal standpoint, where a lot of our legislations and policies, which have the mandate of being inclusive to all children and fostering safe environments for all children, exclude children who are a part of these LGBT-headed families. specifically because there is no recognition to the parental rights of two same-sex couples. So it's not where it is directly imposed upon our children, but we see that where the discrimination or the invisibility of the parents has a trickling effect on the children and services that they can access. For instance, one of our biggest is with the Social Security scheme which exists. If that child is not the biological child of one of the LGBT parents, and I'll use that terminology loosely, they cannot get the same benefits as would a biological child receive. Also, they are not eligible for what would be considered stepchildren by definition within our Families and Children's Act and regulations. So we see that we highlight our children because at many points we see where the discrimination lies on us as the adults. But Belize is a country where we've looked at the family being one of the fundamental principles to actually working towards a society where we see everyone equal. And when we see that our children are being discredited because of who they or what their family is made up of, that is our biggest concern. When it comes to health, there's a process or there are systems which exist which would not allow the parent who is not biological to be able to make decisions, to be able to apply for certain benefits to cater to that child. So for us, our biggest concern is the fact that more and more of our community members are exercising their right to a family, are identifying ways as to how they can start their family and include children within that. And years ago, family, LGBT, children, these were conversations that people thought would forever be taboo. But we're at a point now where these families exist. Attention needs to be drawn as to where the discrimination trickles down to not only the persons who a lot of people would argue made the choice to identify as a part of the LGBT community. However, it's not a matter of choice anymore. We're at the point where our families exist. Our children are being discriminated through, whether it's indirectly, through policies which refuse to acknowledge a part of their family and would be able to allow them that structure. I mean, and I'm sure Danae would chime in that in Belize we don't have a set family structure. And that's actually one of our reasons why we decided to take up this mantle and create some kind of clarity or try to ask the minister for some kind of clarity, because it's very troublesome for us. Where Belize on a whole, a lot of what would be considered Christian principles would contradict our way of life, would contradict the progress we've made in trying to be equal and allowing persons to access their basic human rights.
Let's bring Danae into the conversation here, because I want to hear from you as well, because you have cited the specific words used by Minister Usher, who recently, this was an interview to put it in context, where he was asked about having the responsibility of religious affairs added to his portfolio. And he spoke of several things. He spoke of, being in liaison with the Council of Churches, encouraging a better relationship. And in that, he made one statement, and that is the point that you have written about for clarification. Let's talk about why you reacted to that, Danae.
I think one of the main concerns for us is specifically that one, the portfolio mentions religious affairs, but most of the statements made seem to be concerned with Christianity, and in particularly specifically for Christian affairs. And so then that not only excludes our community, but it also excludes persons who may not prescribe to the Christian faith, or who might identify with another religion or who might be irreligious. So our biggest concern is what specifically does he mean by Christian principles? Because the term Christian principles leaves a lot to interpretation. It's very ambiguous. What Christian principles are we referring to?
Now, there are a lot of people who ascribe to Christian religions, Christianity-based religions. They'll be watching and they'll say, why are you attacking this so early on? How would you respond to that?
I actually don't see it as attacking. I see as we're concerned with the fact that there's this emphasis placed specifically on Christian principles being the guiding force to our laws or to the way we govern our country, when that would set us back decades. That would be a threat to a lot of the work that these human rights organizations have been doing to allow persons access to certain resources. And I don't think it's attacking anybody specifically, because even persons who may ascribe to the Christian faith, they might be affected by any amendment to any laws that are based on these principles, because then that may mean that does it mean that contraceptives won't be available anymore in terms of healthcare? Does it mean that persons who are in relationships and they may want to leave that relationship because it is unhealthy, does that mean that no, I'm not allowed to divorce my partner or separate from my partner based on the Christian principle that we're not supposed to divorce and that we're supposed to stay with this person? So I think that it would still, some of our concerns would still affect persons, or still persons who do ascribe to the Christian faith should still be concerned as well, because these are things that might still affect them.
Agreed. I like that you brought up certain points about maybe women would not be able to divorce their husbands or so forth there, because there are other quote unquote Christian principles that the day-to-day persons do not understand it as such. It could go so far as certain people would only be catered to a particular amount of education for the time, right? I wanted to ask about the merging the public service with Christian fundamental principles. Maybe that is something more along the lines of philanthropy, charity works, and so forth, but why did you feel the need to highlight that part?
Well, because if it can be, it may be that he meant in terms of philanthropy and things like that, as you said. But if that's the case, then that should have been specifically highlighted, because that Christian principle it's very ambiguous, and it leaves a lot of room for interpretation. Because what might be there may be Christians who feel like these are their principles that they abide by, and there may be Christians who may be a bit more liberal and don't abide by some of those principles. So what are the Christian principles? So I think if it was in terms of charity work and philanthropy and that kind of thing, then it should have been specifically highlighted.
You know, when I read the letter, it took me back to the Section 53 court battle, because in the public debate that was ongoing, it very much became diluted down to a LGBT versus church in the opposing views. And so when I read it, it kind of felt like we were headed back in that direction. And it is, and will continue to be a divisive issue in terms of how people see it. But what's different now is that there are more LGBT communities, and there are far more people who openly identify as a part of the community or an ally of the community. But how do you approach this without starting, the same kind of hostile debate that we saw around that time? I hear somebody chuckling. Is that you, Daricia?
Marlene, when our circle decided to address this issue, it was quick action by Danae to decide that we needed to grab this by the horns and address it. We never wanted, and we still don't want this to be an LGBT issue, because when it comes to human rights, we do understand that religious freedom is a part of human rights as well. However, what we don't want to see is that because of having these Christian principles embedded in services that should be accessible to everyone, that we would see that we would face religious persecution. And for us, while we did do this open letter, we have also called on we've sent a joint letter to the Human Rights Commission, to the National AIDS Commission, and to the Women's Commission. Because if as you rightfully said, Marlene, if at every time there is something affecting human rights issues, it's the LGBT community stepping up, eventually people who do not consider themselves a part of the LGBT community will become less and less in tune with human rights violations which are occurring. So for us, while yes, we are here at the Mantle, we do want to encourage, and I think encourage is still a very soft terminology to use, but we want to see these commissions who have been entrusted in protecting and ensuring that policies and legislations and the way of life of Belizeans are pretty much enshrined with human rights treaties and conventions that we've signed on to. So we want to see, especially with a situation like this, where those two statements and the entire concept of having a minister in charge of religious affairs could pose a threat to the work that the Human Rights Commission has invested millions of dollars in, that the National Women's Commission is still investing money in, that the National AIDS Commission are investing in. I mean, we've seen and we've looked at these even from a religious lens, that at some point we needed to have the human rights segregation between the religious freedom. And I think that we're at a point where it's exactly like you stated, Marlene, at some point something that should be addressed and should be highlighted within every household and be a question of concern and a question of thought by every Belizean, may be interpreted as an LGBT issue if these commissions remain complicit, because their silence is very, 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 very deafening to us as human rights defenders, because this is where we should be able to liaise with these commissions and say, hey, okay, we flagged it. The women's group have flagged it. The indigenous groups have flagged it. As a commission, their position and their stance can definitely create a leverage so that Belizeans start acknowledging that human rights violations or statements such as those can lead to an entirely new way of life for us. So we're hoping that this does not become or does not become perceived as an LGBT versus religion issue, because it is in no way, shape, or form that such an attack as was termed earlier. All we're asking for is some clarity in regards to what the minister meant when he stated about merging Christian principles into public service. And if it is, as Danae mentioned, from a charity and a point of not being necessarily legislative, we need to accept the fact that there are NGOs and CSOs who receive government funds. Now, would that mean that organizations such as BFLA can't give contraceptives, can't give out condoms, aren't allowed to support the young people in the way that they are because of these Christian principles? Does it mean now that if two heterosexual couples who want to adopt must get a signature from a pastor to say that they are church-abiding people? Does it mean that my son cannot attend a Catholic or a religious school, a religious school or a school based on Christian principles because his mother identifies as a part of the LGBT community? I mean, it needs to be a discussion beyond the sexual orientation or sexual identity of the people championing these human rights issues, and looking at the fact that his statement and his interview left wide interpretation for all of our lives to be impacted.
I hear that. But let me just ask this. Could it be that it was a statement that was made? I mean, the announcement for the addition of the religious affairs portfolio was only announced that morning. The media took the opportunity to ask the question. Could it be that perhaps you're viewing this already as too fatalistic, and that there can be, that it may not be a situation where it's taking us down to legislated changes that align with Christian values or any particular religion?
Definitely.
Marlene, that statement. Sorry, Denny, go ahead.
No, I would say it could be that probably he was misspeaking, and that was not specifically what he meant, and we would hope that that is the case.
Yeah.
But what we're seeking really is clarity in specifically what he meant by that statement.
Yeah. Have you gotten any responses yet since you issued the letter?
No, I don't.
We haven't gotten. We haven't gotten any response from the minister, and we haven't gotten any response from the Human Rights Commission, the Women's Commission, or the National AIDS Commission.
Okay.
Do you work closely with these NGOs?
Very close, actually.
Yeah.
We do work very close with these commissions, and hence the reason I made the statement that their silence is very deafening. And it also puts value, or it also sheds light as to their value of us as civil society organizations.
Because go ahead, sorry. No, I was going to say perhaps they are waiting for that clarification from them, because like you said, it's largely open to interpretation, right? So perhaps he is making statements based on certain projects that he wants to create in the near future, but perhaps it would be best if everyone would come together and work alongside him, because words can be misinterpreted, right? And the mere fact that he kept highlighting Christian principles, even though Belize is a very Christian-based society and country, right? Yeah, by faith, we still have a lot of minority religious groups. And so the caption or the title, of Minister of Religious Affairs is also open to interpretation, because religious affairs doesn't necessarily mean Christian.
That is so true. And like you said, it's open to interpretation, and hence the reason all we're asking for is some clarity, so that his words cannot be used as a leverage or a springboard for religious discrimination. That is all we're asking. Can you please make a statement, put up a Facebook post, do a TikTok, do something to let us know what exactly it is that you meant, and what exactly your portfolio will encompass, so that we can know how to better address these systems as well as how we can work with him as the minister in charge of religious affairs. Because like we mentioned, even within our clientele, we have persons who subscribe to the Christian faith, and we support them in any way that we can. But what we want to be able to do is to understand his position, that if he did misspeak, that he can rectify or explain in layman terms to the common Belizean what exactly it is he meant, so that it does not leave that ambiguous position of being a springboard for religious discrimination.
All right. Well, ladies, this was an opportunity to understand why these comments elicited this reaction from you. I think you have made your position clear. I hope that we're able to hear back from you if you do get a response, and if you're able to get more clarification on the comments made. But thank you for helping us understand.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
All right. And that was our circle. We are going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to be looking at major crimes trends. We're going to be joined by a representative of the Belize Crime Observatory, the Domestic Violence Unit of the Police Department, the head of the prison, and the National Forensic Services. So we have a big conversation coming up looking at what happened in 2021. So please stay tuned.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky, and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
No sense at all. No kind of sense. That Belize video when I have that sign up there in China for.
That not in Chinese at all, that in Spanish.
You understand what it said then?
Yeah. It said wear your face mask properly, cover your nose and your mouth.
Will help prevent the spread of COVID to others. Together we could make Belize safe.
Wear your mask properly over your mouth and nose to protect yourself and others. Together we can keep Belize COVID-19 safe.
Digi, the premier name in voice and data, is also the country's leading provider of innovative services and solutions for small business and enterprise. At DigiBusiness, we offer solutions, tools, and applications to support your business needs. Reduce costs, improve efficiency, and excel in a changing world where no idea is too big and no task is too small. From technology advising to design implementation and management, our team of qualified solution sales and specialists can develop a reliable and robust infrastructure, allowing you to spend more time on what matters most, your business. Visit us online to explore how DigiBusiness innovative products and solutions can help your business reduce costs and improve efficiency.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, Call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind the scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Did you know? In 2021, there were 883 major crimes committed in Belize. This was an absolute decrease of 0.6%, or a marginal 5 cases compared to 2020. The country's crime rate was 205.3 per 100,000 inhabitants. This was a rate decrease of 3% compared to 2020 and a 40% decrease since 2017. Preliminary figures for 2021 show that Belize had the second highest murder rate in the Central American region at 29.1 murders per 100,000 inhabitants, ranking only behind Honduras at 38.2 murders per 100,000 inhabitants. For the period January to December 2021, May had the highest number of major crimes committed at 95, and January had the lowest at 58. In 2021, burglaries accounted for more than half of all cases, while almost 1 in 5 were robberies. There has been a 23% or 23 case increase in murders from 102 in 2020 to 125 in 2021. In 2021, there were 238 arrests. A little less than half were for burglaries, and 1 in 5 were for robberies and murders respectively. The district with the highest number of crimes was Belize with 366, while Toledo registered the lowest at 30. For more information, visit our website at bco.gov.bc. The Belize Crime Observatory. Inform, interpret, influence.
Crime Observatory. We welcome you back, and we are having our conversation now with a number of different representatives. We have Adeli Ramos, who is the project coordinator and interim technical coordinator for Belize Crime Observatory and InfoSegura Belize. We have with us as well the superintendent of prisons and CEO of the Kobe Foundation, Virgilio Murillo. We have ASP Martha Reese, who is the officer commanding the Domestic Violence Unit, Eastern Division of the Belize Police Department. And we have Jian Cho, who is the Executive Director of the National Forensic Science Service.
Yes,
good morning.
Good
yes,
morning.
Some heavy hitters this morning. We may need more than a half hour. But thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
So I want to start off with just a clarification. I know it's very important for you, Adele, for us to be accurate. The data we talk about from 2021 so far does not include all of 2021 because December is still being tabulated.
Good morning, Marlene. Good morning, Belize. Yes. Yes, for some of the data, but we do have some of the categories completed. So, for example, the major crimes data has been compiled. We are still awaiting some of the more finer details that would help us to do more in-depth analysis. But we do have the aggregates, we do have the preliminary information, especially from our core agencies, and that is what we have to present to you today. With respect to the domestic violence, we still have December pending, but we do have up to November 2021.
Okay. So there's a lot of data to cover, and I want to jump right into it. Let's talk about some of the trends that we have seen so far for 2021. Do you want to start us off, Adele?
Sure.
Yeah.
So let me just explain that. The Belize Crime Observatory sources data from some of its key partners, including the Belize Police Department, the National Forensic Science Service, the Belize Central Prison, but we also do receive data from the Ministry of Health and Wellness through the epidemiology unit, and that allows us to get a more complete picture of the situation with respect to citizen security. And so we have, despite the pandemic during 2020, been able to continue our interagency data sharing, and of course that continues. It's very important for that information to be available to not just the public, not just our agencies, but to policymakers and decision makers. One of the key ones being Minister Karim Musa in Cabinet, where you know that is the chief policymaking arm of the government. Yes. And so the InfoSegura project, funded by USAID and co-implemented by UNDP, is very critical in this regard because they do support evidence-based policy and decisions. Mm-hmm. And so routinely there are reports produced on a monthly basis, not just reports, but other information products. And so this information really and truly is critical for us to be able to know what is happening in various sectors across the continuum of justice. Now, what we saw in 2020, of course, during the pandemic, was a major reduction in certain categories of crime. And early on, after we had the lockdowns and what have you, we saw, for example, like robberies, burglaries, those types of property crimes going way down.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, it was expected. And also, it is expected that with the relaxation of measures, you would then see an increase in certain categories of crime. And so, knowing that, our policymakers and law enforcement could be proactive because you could predict certain things.
Yeah.
So, the data is important in that regard, where we saw, for example, in southern Belize for the earlier part of 2021, property crimes being more of a concern than they were previously. And so you saw where there was that response from law enforcement to be proactive, right?
Yes.
When it came to, for example, domestic violence globally, it was said to be like a pandemic within a pandemic.
Yes.
And again, there were proactive measures. We saw where a new hotline was launched where people could report not just if you are in the situation, but if you know of somebody in the situation, you can also assist. And so all these things together help to mitigate what we expected and what could have been really a much worse situation. But where we saw there was the greatest challenge, I think, was with respect to violent crimes.
Yeah.
And, Belize has been struggling with this, not just today, but for over a decade.
Yeah.
Gang violence, and especially gang violence in the Belize city area in what are known as Precincts 1 and Precincts 2. And we had the states of emergencies in 2020, and then we had another phase this year. And what happens is that is a response to what is often deemed to be a situation that needs urgent intervention. Interventions can vary and interventions need to be multi-sectoral. And what we see now is that the agencies that can help to address the root causes of crime are being engaged and need to be engaged, and I think need to be engaged even more, and not just the agencies, but there needs to be a whole of society approach, because this is not just a problem for the police.
Yeah.
This is a problem for all of us, and so everybody needs to take ownership of the entire situation and not just point fingers and say, it's your job, it's your problem, it's our problem,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And taking that whole of society approach, I think, can really make a substantial difference in numbers that we're seeing.
Yeah. One of the things I think you're referencing in terms of looking at violent crime, we always, unfortunately, count murders like it's a hobby, and we're talking about lives lost, families devastated, and wider ranging impacts than that. But looking at it by a week-to-week or month-to-month basis never actually gives you the picture. What we saw in that opening image, the murder rate per capita is a critical part. And in 2021, when you look at the numbers in total, I really found it interesting, some of the data that you sent, that this is the first increase we've seen in a few years. Do you want to expand on that a bit?
Right. And like I said, it was expected because of all the measures and the restrictions that were in place in 2020. It was expected because the dip that we saw in 2020 was directly related, right? And like I said, where we had the challenge was with respect to especially the Belize City area and gang violence. We saw where, for example, there was an expansion of gang activity outside the core area. And we saw, for example, where places like Punta Gorda and San Pedro saw an uptick in gang violence. So, these things don't stay the same over time. It's very dynamic. And that's why we also emphasize and we support the spatial analysis, because the spatial temporal analysis, because it changes over area and it changes over time. It's absolutely very dynamic. And that's why it's important for us to have the georeference data. I know heat maps are often something that people look forward to, but it's going deeper than the heat maps. You have to look, for example, at communities, at areas, not just at the district level, but get into the finer, finer details.
I'm curious to know how you collected data for the domestic violence, especially during this pandemic, right, from 2020 to 2021. Seeing that there was probably an increase in domestic violence due to the lockdown. Can you explain more about how you were able to collect that data and the difficulties in collecting that data?
The data that we have on domestic violence, it comes from the police department, and it is collected from the different policing areas, formations. And so I think I could ask Ms. Reese to explain a little bit more about that for you. But we did see where, especially in the earlier part of the lockdowns, where you did have that initial increase, and then of course measures were put in place, and so there was a mitigation there. What you're showing there is the murder incidents.
Yeah, this isn't domestic violence. This is the murder heat map that we were talking about before.
Yeah, and so sadly too, we saw where there were some cases of murder that were linked to domestic violence, and there were, this year, 2 double murders that were linked to domestic violence, which, definitely it was very heartbreaking. I mean, each murder, each life lost, because it's not just a statistic, this is somebody's loved one. I lost a loved one this year. I've lost, close family members during the course of time. So this is very personal for me too. I'll hand over to Ms. Reese. Ms. Reese?
Reese, you're still there? Maybe you're on mute?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Morning. So let's talk about the domestic violence data. It's you have several measures. You have one, just complaints that are made each year. How many people call in or go in to make a report?
Yes, we do.
So let's talk about what we saw in 2021.
Well, in 2021, yes, we did have a decrease. We didn't really have an increase. And with 2020 and 2021, that could be attributed to the pandemic, because, although we know that they can make a report, some people, the outreach when it comes to them coming in, with the vaccination and everything in 2021, they say if you're not vaccinated that you can't come to a government building or or a space that the public has access to. And in a way that has caused a little of the decrease, because people do not know that they can come. I mean, we are the police and they're affected, it's crime. So we have to deal with them, because we do not want that it escalates to something more serious. So that is one of the factors, I would say. And when it comes also, we had incorporated since 2019, the service, a counseling service. So that has also assisted in the decrease, because that repeat situations are being dealt with, and it has really come in handy where that is concerned. But the counseling service is only in Belize City, but countrywide, it's the same across countrywide. Persons not knowing that they can still come in even if they're not vaccinated.
How has the hotline helped?
Well, the hotline, for last year, it was incorporated. We had a text, we had a cell phone incorporated, because we have always had the detail hotline, and that is call-in. So the text, the line with the smart line, it's an addition. So you don't necessarily have to call in. You can text in the information, and then the police will follow up from there. But still, it is a challenge. It is still a challenge.
There typically is an assumption made, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the number of reported cases is only, a small percentage of the actual incident rate or the actual number of incidents.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
That's true because we only respond to what the situations that reaches us,
Yeah.
right? And we do know that there are other situations persons are not coming in because if we look at some of the incidents and not to speak personally about this situation with my own colleague, you know, and her daughter. Sometimes people believe that, you know, all reports that police has knowledge of or have had some access to at some point, but some persons believe that, you know, it's still taboo with them, so they would not want to come in to make a report. So there, you would believe that we have knowledge of all situations, but that is not true because some people simply just do not report it.
I also noticed here in your summary, your statistics, sorry, that there are no reports about suicides. It is not included in your case reports. Why is that?
Well, when it comes to suicides, it's no longer considered a crime, right? So it's not included for that purpose.
Can you explain why
as
not?
part of statistics?
Can you give more clarification as to why it's not considered a crime?
First, it used to be a crime. It used to be in the laws, but it's no longer considered a crime. So that's why it's not there. We still respond. We still have a duty to respond because all sudden deaths, we have to they have to make a determination because not necessarily because they said it was a suicide that it is, you know, all deaths have to be investigated.
Yeah.
So, but once it's classified as suicide, it's not a part of the statistics overall.
And speaking of investigation, that gives us a great segue over to the forensic services. Gian, you know, looking at the data that we've been provided so far, you know, it seems that you've been doing more work, and I know you've actually gotten some new equipment and skilled persons as well. Let's talk about what the forensic services saw in 2021.
Thank you and good morning again, everyone.
Yes.
Just to jump on what Ms. Reese was talking about with suicides and the data set that Ms. Ramos had provided to you guys. Suicides is a category that's flagged for this year because it's actually higher than in previous years. And I believe Crime Observatory put together the trends since over the past decade. The figure that we got for last year, 43 deaths due to suicide, is actually one of the highest since 2008, if not the highest. So there is an epidemiological need to dive deeper into that particular statistic to try to find out what type of interventions or support services is needed from the various stakeholders or sectors involved in mental health. So that's one of the values that combining data and comparing across agencies provides, is that you can actually pick out trends that stick out and prioritize, allocate new resources or new interventions to try to target it, as Ms. Adele said. No? So looking at data in this way, we can make more informed decisions and try to, through the ministry, and the ministry has been putting a lot of effort on the preventing the root causes of crime.
Yes.
But when at the end of the year, when we compile our annual reports, which we're doing right now, we come across other statistics other than crime. As Ms. Reese said, suicide is not necessarily a crime, but there is a need, a public health need, a citizen security need to look at how we can also either address the root cause of crime or of some of these types of incidents, or also employ corrective actions. One of the other things that we look at is homicides from forensics. So our department, since 2018, we started to regularly share fatality data with the Crime Observatory. We later started to share crime scene categories, meaning the types of incidents that our crime scene technicians respond to, just to kind of correlate, gather more data points so that Crime Observatory can validate data, cross-reference, and clean the data better.
Yeah.
The laboratory data set we have not yet begun to integrate, but we do want to try to do that this year. But looking at fatalities, homicides, if you look at the number that we have for last year, it's 141, if I am not mistaken. And just to clarify, so well, you said murder is 125. Why is homicide 141? Well, homicide is a generic definition. Homicide means the death of a human caused by another person. So the death of one human being caused by another human being, not necessarily murder. Murder is a charge. It's due to a charge that's brought on by the justice system, and there's a legal context for that. But homicide itself is strict definition. One person dies as a result of action from another person. So it includes categories like manslaughter. It includes categories like induced abortion of fetuses, things like that. So you'll see 141 this year.
Okay.
But that's a large umbrella category which includes murder.
Okay. So I want to go back to your top 10 categories where your scenes of crime goes to process. I was very surprised when I saw that your top category was traffic incidents.
Yes, so any kind of crime scene or accident scene, a crime scene technician needs to respond to it. They're required by, as part of the legislation, no? To support law enforcement in gathering evidence, and that includes photographic documentation of the scene. So even minor traffic accidents, scenes of crime have to deploy to take photographs and collect any evidence that may end up being used to press charges or may end up being used in court. Doesn't always end up in court, no? But we do need to preserve the ability to prosecute the crime, so they have to respond to the scene regardless of whether a crime has been committed. But yeah, it is a huge strain on resources across the country to have a limited number of technicians to respond to all of those scenes. So road traffic accidents was one of the main types of scenes that crime scene technicians respond to, followed by burglary. You also have damage to property, then shootings, the homicide or the death scenes. Those are some of my top categories.
Yeah. Now let's talk about autopsies for homicides. You have an increase in forensic autopsies of 24% in 2021. Do you want to expand on that a bit?
Yes. So the medical examiner's office, they investigate all sudden, suspicious, unexplained, violent, or accidental deaths. So what we've seen over the past 10 years is that percentage of total deaths for the country has steadily increased that our medical examiners have to investigate, right? So the total deaths for Belize, for 2021, for instance, it's a little over 2,000 deaths. In previous years, it's somewhere around 2,000, a little over 2,000. So that's just the annual statistics for death certificates. A quarter of those deaths are the medical legal deaths, the deaths that our examiners or forensic medical examiners have to conduct post-mortem exams to try to gather evidence to help law enforcement, but also to certify the cause and death and the manner of death if possible. So last year we had a caseload of over 550 post-mortem examinations conducted. Big increase from previous year because of the lockdown. Most deaths for last year was, I'm not seeing the figure, but it was much less than for this year, the post-mortem cases. No?
Okay.
So the homicide is just one manner of death that represents about, I think, less than quarter of the total types of autopsies that our doctors perform. We have 3 medical examiners that performed all those 550 autopsies along with the support staff. No? The leading type of manner of death that the forensic department investigates is natural death, actually. So we focus on the homicides for crime statistics, yes, but our staff, we have to investigate every sudden unexplained or suspicious deaths.
So if somebody dies at home,
yes,
then you have to do the autopsy to be sure whether or not it's natural causes or anything else sinister may have taken place.
Yes, unless the person has a documented medical history that a physician has been attending to them, and if the physician knows that they had for instance, a terminal condition. But yes, if they just fall, unfortunately, and have a sudden death at home or somewhere else, or traffic accident or drowning, suicide. Those are all the types of deaths that our medical examiners have to investigate. But typically, natural causes are the leading cause. This year, we saw also accidental deaths increase. Mainly in the last quarter of the year, we had a little spike in road traffic fatalities.
Okay.
And then homicides is the third leading category that we typically see. This year, like I mentioned, suicide is also elevated. There is a category that's elevated. So there's a lot of unseen work that our forensic staff do, not only to support the law enforcement agencies, but I mean, data like this that we share with the Ministry of Health is important epidemiological data so that we can try to look at the deeper causes of some of these fatalities.
What's the most concerning trend you would say has been identified in 2021?
The suicide, definitely, the increase in suicide. In the later quarters of the year, I think the last quarter of the year, like I mentioned previously, we saw a spike in accidental deaths, mainly road traffic accidents. For the homicides, the third quarter had the highest figure. And well, for suicides, so what we've seen, interestingly, over the years, the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, that's when the suicide rate tends to be higher than the other quarters. And well, natural deaths, it's been the same trend that we see over the years. We have a gradual increase in natural deaths towards the last quarter of the year. October, November, December, that's when you have most of the fatalities due to morbidities, hypertension, stroke, heart attacks. So those usually peak toward the ending of the year, and we saw that again this year, or in 2021.
This is why having hard data is so critical, because you just opened up a whole other level of conversations in trends that you've seen. But I do want to move on. We have Virgilio with us to talk about the prison statistics. I know some of this information has already been published on your end, Mr. Maria, when we talk about the decline in prison population for last year. But let's talk about what you're finding.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me again. Yes, like I had shared the numbers, like you said, Marlene, and what we saw for last year, particularly when you compared it with 2020, we did see major decreases in almost every category of crimes, with the exception of drug trafficking, which shot up by 80%. And this is as it relates to incarceration, of course. And then we also saw immigration offenses that came down drastically by 41%. Or if you want to put a number to it, for immigration, that would have been 117 less illegal immigrants being sent to the prison. And with respect to drug trafficking, you're looking at 33 more persons being sent to prison for the offense of drug trafficking. In every other category, there's been significant reduction right across. So that is what we're seeing for right now.
Yeah. I one of the things I found interesting was the incarceration, let me get it right, convictions for murder.
Well, you know, typically you would not, at least for the last few years, you're not seeing any conviction for murder. Normally, you would get a conviction, even though the person was charged for murder, you would get a conviction for manslaughter as opposed to murder, and that is why. So for them, I mean, to see them not being convicted of murder does not necessarily mean that they were not convicted in at all. So you would want to, you know, look at the manslaughter statistics, and that will give you an idea more or less how many people got convicted in the year for manslaughter. And
or even cross-referencing with the number of cases.
Right. For argument's sake, let's say for last year, the convictions for murder, there was only one person convicted of murder and 3 were convicted of manslaughter last year. And more than likely, these are cases that probably have been dragging on for at least anywhere over 2 years. So it does not necessarily mean that it would be for a murder that may have taken place in 2020 or 2021, whatever the case may be. Yep.
Now, given the fact that 2020 kind of slowed a lot of crime down, and then 2021 with loosening of restrictions, we saw some things start to, some of this type of criminal activity resume. What would you say for you in the prison are some of the trends that you're seeing that concerns you? I mean, a decrease in population from the outside looking in is saying, good, we have less people committing crimes, but the data doesn't really show that.
Well, at the end of the day, I can only account for who comes to the prison. And, you know, one thing I can tell you is that when anybody is sent to the prison, whoever has a little stint with the prison, certainly we try to capitalize on the captive audience type thing. Yeah. So once we have them here, we try to get them engaged in programs. The remanded prisoners were recently afforded the opportunity to participate in gang programs. Back in 2017, remember, we opened our Remand Rehab Center, which we never had prior, and that looks after the issue of gangs. So when we have these states of emergency, we tend to try and educate them as much as possible. We try to use a program called the New Freedom Program that will guide them in getting out of that gang life and that kind of stuff. But certainly, I can tell you, I don't know what much I can say about who is sent to the prison, because all I can tell you is that, you know, burglary definitely is one of the major crimes that we see people coming to prison for.
Yeah.
That, as a matter of fact, that is the one and only offense. Well, not necessarily burglary, but we call it crimes of dishonesty, and that would include robberies, burglary, theft, and fraud and white-collar crime, whatever you want to call it. But that accounts for most of the crime that we see on an annual basis, and that is from time immemorial. That's pretty much it.
Let me just ask you, if you have the information off the top of your head, that 7% decline, would that have been persons who were on remand, who went to court and were cleared of charges or completed the sentence? What would you say is the majority to account for that loss there?
It's a combination of many factors. They're either given bail after waiting for quite a while for their murder charge. You will have people who would have gone on parole, because we do have 125 persons on parole currently. And certainly there are people who are completing their sentences and they're just not coming back. So it's a combination of many things.
Okay. Now, I didn't get to ask you this question, ASP Reese, and it is a very critical one when we talk about gender-based violence. What would you say are the concerns for you when you look at the data for 2021?
Well, with respect to gender-based violence, that is part of our shortcomings, because we cannot really, on the warrant, it would not necessarily say that a crime of murder or manslaughter or an act of violence, maim, wounding, grievous harm, whatever the case may be, it does not say that it was as a result of a domestic violence type thing. It would only say the person is being remanded for murder or for manslaughter or what have you.
Yeah.
This is where we have some problems. So the prison does not necessarily get all of that detail. Maybe at the conclusion of the case, then we would be afforded a copy of the conviction and the transcript. And then, only then, can we go now and pinpointedly say, all right, this was as a result of this, and you could classify it as domestic violence or gender-based violence type thing.
Okay. ASP Reese? You may be on mute. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. The trends that concern you from the data you've seen from 2021?
Well, when it comes to the trends from 2021, as we said, we've seen, of course, increase in physical violence is always one of our most prevalent case, the assaults, So, and that is always constantly rising. That is one of our biggest concern when it comes to the trends, Yes, we do have verbal and we do have of threats, but the physical violence has always been the leading causes in all our cases.
Yeah. You also, I think, note from 2020 that you are seeing, and I use this carefully, as an increase in number of male reports, male complaints.
Yes.
2 out of 10.
Yes, we've seen an increase in that, but of course it still remains
majority women.
Yes, it still remains minimal compared to those made by women.
Yeah. Just, I think we can keep going with this conversation.
I was going to ask about the equipment in the forensics unit. How have you been able to use those equipment? Have you gotten new equipment? What is the status for 2021 versus 2020 when it comes to using your newfound equipment?
All right. Last year we received some equipment, mainly from the Crime Observatory collaboration for data gathering, data analysis. Earlier in the year, we purchased some advanced laboratory equipment for toxicology. This year, we're getting a donation of more advanced toxicology equipment, as well as histopathology equipment for death investigation. So to assist the medical examiners to do histology work. And that is usually needed when the cause of death is difficult to see from macroscopic observation. So they need either further toxicology tests or further histology tests to look at tissues to see for evidence of injuries, evidence of wounding that might not be visible to the naked eye. So we're getting that donated through a project coordinated by SICA. Those equipment have been tendered out through the SICA donors. We should receive, I think it's estimated at over $250,000 US. We should receive that later, probably by middle of this year. So that once we have the equipment, we do have the staff with the capacity to do those analyses. We'll need more staff to replace the loss of manpower from their current duties. But it's a needed growth, a needed step forward for forensics to be able to support stronger death investigation systems, not only for criminal cases, but also for the non-criminal cases. A lot to look forward to in 2021 in terms of the support that forensics provide to solving cases. We're looking at the root causes of crime for the past year and trying to address those through the intervention programs, but we also, from the forensic side and the criminal investigation side, and we work closely with the CIB branch of police. We also need to strengthen and devote more resources to investigating and solving some of the criminal offenses. I just want to add one last thing, Marlene, to answer your question about concerning trends. And we touched on it in the domestic violence aspect in terms of victims. From the fatality side, in terms of victims disaggregated by sex, I think it's no surprise that a lot more males die due to violent deaths, due to accidental deaths, also due to natural deaths, also due to suicides than females. And for homicides, for instance, it's a 10-fold difference, males versus females. For accidental deaths, it's about 6-fold. 6 times more males die from accidental deaths than females. For natural deaths, it's about 3 times more males die than females. And for suicides, it's about 5 times more males than females. So males were clearly
overall more men died.
Yes, across all categories, and that's again a striking observation. That it's honestly it's a historical trend.
Yeah.
But we do need to look at again some of the differences in factors that contribute to death in these instances that may be preventable due to either gender-based or more biological aspects.
Yeah, I'm happy that you brought that up, because when we talk about deaths and we talk about gender-based violence, we always shift our focus to women, because those are the ones that complain the most. We're the ones that make the report the most, and then we often don't look at statistics about the men that die in all of these other categories. So I'm very happy that you brought that up, and just to drive it home, what are the upcoming projects that the forensic unit is taking on for 2022?
All right. Well, we have 3 units of the forensic department. We have the medical examiner's office. So we're, like I said, we're trying to grow or to add additional types of further testing, histology testing. We're trying to increase the staff in the medical examiner's office. Currently, we only have 3 medical examiners, but we do need a lot of support staff. The use of morgues to conduct all of these forensic postmortem examinations. The medical examiners are not in control of their own morgue. We are basically tenants of morgues across the country, but it does provide a lot of challenges, logistic and operational challenges in terms of storage of equipment, custody of evidence, custody of bodies, admission, release of bodies, etc. This year, we're looking to have a needs assessment followed by an architectural design conducted for the long-awaited CABE loan agreement that is to provide a new forensic morgue and a new forensic laboratory. It won't be constructed this year. Note my words, I said we're looking for the needs assessment and the architectural design to be completed by the ending of this year. The CABE loan process, there's a lot of checks and balances, and on the flip side of that, it slows down some of the implementation, but I mean, there needed checks and balances, but it's been 8 years, coming up to 8 years now that loan agreement was signed back in 2014. We still have yet to see tangible deliverables from the loan, including equipment. But we did have one tender review committee already to look at equipment. This year, like I said, the tender should go out for a qualified firm to study the department, to look at the needs, the current operations, where the forensic department needs to go in the next 20 years, and to provide a plan, an architectural plan for design of new facilities, not only for the medical examiners, but for the forensic laboratory.
Yeah.
Wow.
The laboratory is one of the other 2 units for the department, and we do have a lot of plans in terms of rolling out quality systems, in terms of new staff. We're also looking to increase our outsourcing of DNA cases. Last year, we outsourced about 20 cases to a laboratory in the USA. We want to steadily increase that every year until such time that we can actually add DNA to the scope of the department.
Gian, we got to get you back because there is a lot to talk about. I know. And I want to say, though, this was really a power-packed group here, and I wish we got to dive into these separately at some point in time, but today was an opportunity to get an overview of trends. And Adelia, thank you so much for helping us in providing the data. I think what really was underscored is the fact that there is sufficient data to drive data-driven decision-making. But while we have the quantitative, there definitely, I mean, who does the qualitative? Can you close off with that one, Adeli?
With respect to the qualitative data analysis, that's an area definitely where more emphasis is needed. And there are a lot of things in the pipeline for the Crime Observatory and the partner agencies. And maybe I could close on that point. Because, for example, during 2021, there was a conversation started on conducting Belize's first national crime victimization survey. And so this has been engaging partners such as the UNODC, Galen University, UNDP, Infosegura, which has provided initial financial support to get this off the ground. Another thing that is happening through the Infosegura project funded by USAID is the provision of software, hardware. You can have your analysts trained, you can have your personnel in-house, but if you're not current with innovation and technology, then the work is still just vastly manual. And so one of the things that we're looking at is to build in a lot of automation so that the data is shared more readily, is available more quickly, more real-time analytics are available to your heads of departments, your partner agencies, even, for example, the international development partners who work and collaborate along with national level agencies to plan interventions on the ground. And it could be a simple thing like, for example, looking at getting the data to design a project. For example, the Spotlight Initiative utilized the domestic violence data and the visualizations that came out of the observatory. That came from the police department. And so you see where the data really goes a long way.
And when you put the geospatial, or when you put it on a map, then you can even see where hot spots are and know where you need to concentrate your focus. This has been a really informative conversation. I appreciate all of you for taking your time out to have it. And clearly we can expand on this very soon as well. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate the time
that
you've given us to share.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to take our next break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about art therapy. Stick around. Stay tuned.
With eCash, bill payment is extremely convenient, and all utility companies accept eCash payments. What's even better? You get to split bills with your roommates, siblings, or whoever you desire. Simply open your eCash app, go to Bill Pay, tap the respective utility company, enter the information, and pay the bill. Then tap the transaction made. Tap Split the bill. Select Evenly. Send the request to who you are splitting the bill with, and get notified when they pay. Talk about making life easy and avoiding confusion. You can split the bill for restaurants, grocery stores, and for any eCash payment you make. To find your next yummy meal, hair treatment, or chill spot, simply open the app and utilize the geolocation service to see nearby businesses that accept eCash. Geolocation and bill payment make life a whole lot easier.
Our region's healthcare workers are our heroes, and that's why we want to make sure you're protected against dangerous diseases that can harm you and your families. To all our amazing healthcare providers, please make sure you're up to date with your vaccines, from measles to influenza. And when it's your turn to get vaccinated against COVID-19, please make sure you do so as soon as possible. The COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective at protecting you, and they're our best shot at keeping our health services functioning. Thank you for all you do.
Vaccines bring us close.
The ministry is collaborating with SpeedNet Communications to have a vaccination campaign for children ages 12 to 17 years. Children who get vaccinated will get a chance to win fabulous prizes, including backpacks with supplies, Nintendo Switch, tablets, book tuitions, and MiFi with 3 months data. Only children 12 to 17 years old can participate in this Smart and Ministry of Health and Wellness raffle. At vaccination sites, each vaccinated child, upon being vaccinated, will receive a ticket to place their name, age, date of birth, BHIS number, and contact information on, which will be filled out by a parent or legal guardian. The sooner a person vaccinates, the more chances he or she will have to win. Get vaccinated, Belize. Vaccination saves lives.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BZ, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind the scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
It's a fact that your credit lasts longer when using Smart. During these times, we're all trying to find ways to cut costs and save the little resources we have. With Smart, it's easy to do that. It's a fact that with Smart, your credit lasts longer. You can call Smart to Smart and Smart to Digi using your promo credit, while with the other guy, you can only call OnNet, Digi, or BTL numbers. What does this mean? You get to call any national number using your promo credit. Your promo credit is free, so that call is also free. Know your facts. Don't be tricked by the other guy. Be smart and save your dollars.
Connecting people. Creating memories.
So here we are at the Glaze Out Kitchen. I just prepared this amazing broccoli.
Sharing a smile. Next Gen, the ultimate digital experience.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BZ, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind the scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
We're back, and as we said, new year, new skills, and today we are going to be talking about learning to express yourself through art. We have with us Kirkland Smith.
Yes.
Kirkland is the founder of Kirkland Smith School of Visual Arts. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
It's a great pleasure, and I'm glad to share some knowledge about art with you.
You said that you were going to talk about how art can be a little bit of therapy for us.
Well, that is a very important word, therapy, especially in this, in our world today. I think after 2020, the whole world shift, and more people start to realize that we need something to help us to cope.
Yes.
And to help us to de-stress.
Yes.
And to help us to handle anxiety, that all those things come with the changes of the pandemic, and art is one of those areas that are vital and very important for the human soul.
Right.
At this point.
Let me just probe into this a bit. You have been a teacher, but also an art teacher for 2-3 decades of your life.
If I say since 1999, that won't sound too long, right?
Yeah.
So I've been serving the art community since 1999. That's when I started teaching.
I mean, as an artist and teacher.
As an artist and teacher.
And
well, prior to that, I was an art student.
Yeah. Yes.
And then once I launched into a teaching career, it is history there.
And now you have started your own visual art school.
It is something that was in the making for many years. Since I finished university. I came back and I expanded the program to reach out into the community and include as much as we can from the populace into an art program. Whether from a preschool age up to senior citizen age. We include all of them.
Now you started almost at the start of the pandemic. So how has it been since then?
I think before, the program has been ongoing. It was not something that is new since the pandemic, but because of the pandemic, it forced a lot of changes and evolution in that area, where I had to rethink how to approach teaching art. Since we cannot meet in a group, we cannot have a large class. In fact, when we used to do our children's summer art program, we had up to like 100 kids in one big room. And we used to work with a population like that, a class size. But pandemic, everything changes, and at this point, we started out online. So Zoom, Google Meet, those online platforms have become the terms of today for learning.
And you've also done like shrunken sizes. We have a number of flyers with classes that you have starting this year. What I find interesting is that you're doing beginning level and also intermediate. So it's for all different levels.
All different levels, from beginners to advanced.
To advanced.
So
and from how young to how old?
Well, once they can hold a paintbrush, then they can do art.
And I like that you have them in categories, because then it does help with the terms of regulations for the pandemic, because they are set in different times, they're set in different dates, and then they're set for certain sizes.
So majority of the classes, the classes are pretty much online. And so the class size is not an issue. And, and we have from, 5 years to about 40, 30 adults within one group when it comes to beginners or also intermediate. Yeah, because then it's a mixture, and we see that creativity does not know age, right? You're never too old to begin, and you're never too young to start.
But can you also be not artistic enough? Because that's my concern with our little demonstration here.
For me personally, I do not hold to the idea of not being artistic.
Okay.
I believe that once you are a human being from Earth, you are naturally an artist.
Okay.
It's a part of our DNA. We have an inclination to be creative.
Well, we're going to test your theories today,
Yeah.
right? Because you are going back, you're back in the Open Your Eyes classroom
Yes.
for some live instruction.
Before we begin,
Yes.
we normally, when I start with my class, I normally do a little short exercise at the beginning, which is where we get acquainted with the materials and the tools.
Okay.
I guide the students into how to use the materials and also how to care for the materials. So all of them, we provide the packages too. We don't just have the class, but we provide a package for the students.
That's what I saw too. So you buy the materials and then you teach the class.
Yes.
And you provide the materials.
I provide
I don't have
materials.
to guess when I go to the store what kind of paint to buy.
I made that accommodation because of many reasons, and I wanted to provide the best materials possible at an affordable cost for all my students.
Yes. Okay, so what are we doing?
All right, so the first thing we want to do, we're going to use the primer colors.
So we got
We're going to do a little
acrylic?
abstract.
And what is that?
All of these are acrylic paints.
Okay.
They are both acrylic paints, and these are nice and to attract attention, right?
No. This is part of the artistic display.
Yes.
I'm sorry. All right.
It's
We're not supposed to touch these.
I know you want to use it. I know you want to use it. But what we are going to do, we're going to do what we call abstract expressionism.
Okay.
Where we're only going to use the primer colors, so we can share
Red,
one
yellow,
palette
and blue. Okay.
and blue. All right. So you see, have the art already new. You have these things done. So normally, we want to wet the brush. Start off with brush.
One?
We're using the larger one. This is a watercolor paper, and you can start with any color. I'll use red just because red is easier to see on the camera. And
I love
this exercise is to help the student not only get acquainted with the tools, but to understand color theory. So we're just using the primer colors and just mixing these as we go along. So in abstract expressionism, you are free and you're liberated to create.
All right.
Don't think about it. Once you start to think about it, then you know you need to take a pause. So different approaches. You can either dab the paint on, you can flicker it. Try not to flicker too much, it will fall all over you. Normally we use aprons. You can just use the brush strokes. And while the paint is still wet, you can drip it. So the approach is different. And while the paint is still wet, you want to add another color to it. So you want to wash out the paintbrush first.
Okay.
Don't think about what you're doing. If you started, you notice the nice mixture there. I always tell my students once, when you start to wash out the paintbrush, you see even the water, the colors are changing when the colors are mixing there. And you can use a different color, yes. I will go blue this time. And then wet the brush again. Make sure you get sufficient water there. It's all right. And then while the paint is still wet, we can add, you can drip it, you can flicker it, don't flicker too much, you can blend it. The idea is to see the color mixing while you're creating something there. You don't know what you're doing, but in the end, whatever you have, that's a nice creative work, and you're seeing the colors are mixing as well. When you see the blue and the red, they mix, you see the purple comes out. So you see different colors. You can add some, wash out the paintbrush again, and then we can add some yellow.
Mine looks like a Chinese New Year design.
All right, see?
Yeah.
See, and then everyone sees something else.
Yeah. So what's the experience been like? You've been doing the online courses. What it does though is it allows adults to be able to have the time to join in.
Yes, it does. And one of the classes that I do is called Children and Family Art. And it is a class that is designed to be less technical, so there's not much teaching. It is more designed to be more therapeutic, to help the family to spend some time together, and also to create works of art in doing that.
Adults and children within the same class.
Within the same class, or within the same family too. So it's a family time as well for that particular course.
Awesome. And that's all in person or that's online?
Online, all
How
online.
do you find the people that are doing the classes respond to online art classes?
The responses have been excellent.
Yeah.
People have welcomed the idea, and it is one way of reaching people who I was unable to reach before the pandemic.
Okay.
If you're in Toledo, if you're in Stan Creek,
San
Cayo,
Pedro.
San Pedro, Kikaka, from all over you can join the class. So it doesn't matter where you are. In fact, I had students, and I still have students who are international, from New York, from Texas, from St. Vincent. So I had some students who were from different countries. But the only problem is with those in the Eastern Caribbean islands is the time difference. no?
Yeah.
All right, so then and if you notice, you see the blend of the mix of colors there, and you don't want to use up the space too much. You want to create a balance. That's fine. So you want to create a balance between the background. No, that's
Look
okay
at
too.
the difference in
Yeah,
the
that's
three,
okay, man.
right? That's like structure. I
It's
don't
nice.
know.
That reminds me of a sky, like an evening
Yeah,
sky.
that's what
like,
I
you
was
know,
going for.
Sunset. So you are thinking.
So you're not being abstract. You
That's
did
all right.
not get the assignment
I was
right.
not a good art student.
All right, but coming back to it though, what I love, I was thinking about it when I saw like the children and family one. It's a great way for people to come together that haven't been able to, even if they're living in different parts of the world too.
Oh yes, actually I had some family members who were in Belize and some who were in New York, and every time we meet for class, it was like a reunion. They'd be like, hi, you know, and then it's nice. Yeah. It's a nice experience. And
I see you're doing the paint and sip too for adults.
yes, that one is particularly designed for adults.
Yes.
No kids are allowed
Yes.
because
No
then
sipping orange juice there.
yes, we sip some water. That is okay, and it is designed to be relaxing. Sometimes you need time and space to just step away from work, step away from the trials of life, to step away from the stress that comes with being a responsible adult and productive citizen, to help you to relax and start over.
What's the experience that you see? Because you know what art does for you and what it can do for others. When you have first timers that come in and they go through the class, what's the shift that you see in them?
Okay, one, I get the same response every time at the beginning. Sir, I don't know nothing about art.
Okay.
I'm not an artist. That's like the storyline all over.
That's
right?
the basic. I'm basic, so yeah, that's
But
me.
then my response is always, that is why I'm here as your art teacher, and I guide you through. And then in the end, even they themselves are surprised at their production. So once you're finished with the
Wow,
materials,
April, look at
just make sure that we always wash out the paint brushes.
It's my brain.
See, you said you're not an artist. That's excellent work.
That's
Excellent work,
pretty
excellent work.
impressive.
But yes, so people how do people use art to de-stress? What comes with that? What are the therapist part of it?
All right, so I like that question. I designed my art school with 3 focuses in mind when it comes to teaching art.
Yeah. Okay.
The first one is the basic, to teach the skills, to develop the artistic intelligence.
Yeah.
And then the second focus is to develop interpersonal and intrapersonal skills, where the person is able to express themselves, communicate with others, develop some self-confidence, and also to have a sense of accomplishment. So those are important things.
Yeah.
And in that comes with being able to cope with different situations in their lives.
Yeah.
And art helps a person in that way.
Yeah.
So the person who does art has an advantage over the person who does not do art. That doesn't mean that the person who doesn't do art don't know how to cope with problems in life. But
You
art,
have an extra tool.
yes, it's an extra tool. And the last area of focus is to help the person, especially those who are at the student age, whether primary school, high school, university, to enhance different areas of learning in different disciplines, because art develops skills that include like an eye for detail, observational skills, creativity, critical thinking. Those things come together.
Even the little ones with the manipulation of the brush.
It helps you to be creative, and you tap into different areas of learning that makes you a better person and a more productive citizen.
I like that.
All right.
I like that a lot.
And I gotta say, I saw some of the stuff on your Facebook page. You have drawings in addition to painting. So you said visual art.
Yeah.
It does include like I'm sorry, I don't know the
That's
correct
fine, that's
terminology.
fine. So
but like
visual
the
arts-
pencil and the
Visual
charcoal.
arts is the big umbrella of when it comes to looking at creative works, and it includes drawings, painting, graphic design, sculpture, pottery, ceramics, all those things, filmmaking, all those things, architecture, music, those fall in the art, but visual arts is the physical, creative production. So those are things that are important for us to know.
Yeah, these are all the supplies. So you do provide the supplies for people when
Yes,
they
I do.
Purchase a package.
And they have the option of different materials and different tools that you might not really find in the country. So all of this evolved from the need to finding not only good materials, but materials that works and that are, more affordable.
Yeah.
So accessibility and affordability is one of our two keywords when it comes to the art school as well.
Well, I just think if I walked into a store and you told me to pick up paint for an art class, I would know where to start.
Yeah.
So it's easier if you provide it anyway, because you know what I'm going to
Or
need.
you provided
I understand the stress of going somewhere and trying to find what you know what you want to find, but you cannot find it. So, and all over the place. So that's the only thing. And the demand is is there. And I must point out that now, today, from when I first started teaching art 10 years ago, the community is more embracing it.
Oh, yes.
Parents are more embracing it.
Yeah.
And I have students who have taught their kids are into art because they are the ones. And I always tell my students that you are the ones who will promote and advocate for art in our schools and in learning. And I see it.
So here we have our finished product. I don't know what this says about our three.
No,
see, I feel like people read into your art, right?
And that is good.
That is
good.
Yeah.
Every artwork you produce is open to is open to interpretation. So it's subjective.
Yeah.
And you can rotate it.
Okay, yeah.
And you can see the views different views, right? And one thing about abstract art. So you can rotate it and see. So sometimes
I can decide which way I
yes,
like
so if you have a nice abstract piece, you can hang it up anywhere on the wall, right? Landscape or portrait, and it's fine. And my students are always surprised at it, and it is years of processing all these ideas and thinking about, what is it that is needed when it comes to teaching art.
And I think this is one of the great things, but from when we started. It's almost like we fixate so much on how things are supposed to be. Abstract art especially gives you the opportunity to just do.
And you feel relaxed.
Yeah.
You're free.
Yeah.
In the end.
Not so much April because she planned for us.
Well, it still made me feel better.
You cannot leave the canvas.
Okay.
So
okay.
What we're doing now, we're going to work at a faster pace.
Okay. Yes.
Good.
And
we need faster.
At the same time, we're going to use the same
brush.
If you notice, we're using small amounts of paint, but at this, and we still have paint left over. Okay. And I always encourage, even when teaching art, I encourage my students to be mindful of the materials. You want to take care of the materials, you want to take care of the tools, and you want to be conscious of the environment as well.
Okay.
Especially when we use water and when we dispose of different things, different materials in the end. We try to be as conservative as possible. So those are different things that comes with teaching art. It's not just about art, it's about life skills as well.
So Kirkland, what's been the interest so far for your sessions for this year?
Interest. That's a big word and it has me thinking a lot.
I mean, are spaces still available?
Spaces are always available. every class session is designed to finish within that space and that time.
Okay.
So I try to structure it that way where we don't have to say, man, we didn't finish tonight, let's try to finish it late another class. No, because I know that sometimes some people want to start, but they cannot start on that day and time, but they come and jump into another class. So they have that liberty as well.
Have you ever had a student come in and say, this is what I want to learn?
Yes, I have that. I have that.
And do they learn that?
And they do. They do. Right? We take.
No, because sometimes art takes you in a different direction, and they learn something else.
That is true. And I think one thing, what I've learned in the past, that when it comes to teaching art, I never push the idea of, oh, you can become an artist or you can become an art teacher and things like that, because we don't learn mathematics to become a math teacher or mathematician.
True.
Or English to be a linguist or anything like that. Art is a part of learning.
It's a skill set.
And it's something that we want to also foster in our students, because in the past I've realized that when parents used to realize that their kids love art and they want to be they want to do art, they get scared and be like, no, you can't become an artist when you get older. That's in the past.
Yeah.
But no,
Now
you
they can.
understand now, right?
Yeah.
Good. So what we're going to do on the small canvas, so we're going to do a little beach scene.
Oh.
You follow along with me.
Okay.
And we work with the space. Normally, some artists will blend the colors first and then put it on the canvas, but we're going to do our blending right on the canvas.
Okay.
So,
So where do we start?
First, we're going to work with the sky, and then from there we work our way down to the sea, and then try to make a beach, and then put some coconut trees. No. I know, I see the stress coming out, right? The anxiety is building, and that is okay. So what you want to do, we always start with the sky. So it don't matter if we mix these colors here.
Okay.
So we can. So we start with the sky with the blue. Just get some blue in.
All right.
Enough, and make sure you're wet. We just add some more water because we're diluting it, and then we start on top and just spread that out. Spread that out from one end to the next. And if a paintbrush feels dry, just touch a little water in it. The idea is we want to.
How low is my sky going to go?
You could go half watch. So it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. You can hold it in your hand like that. That's okay. Now you can add more blue if you feel like you need more blue. The idea is from one end to the next, across the canvas. Don't be afraid to wet the paintbrush. I chose this topic because I know it will create some form of anxiety, so we feel like, I don't know if I can do that.
Okay.
Good. So before this paint dries quickly. So what you want to do, while it's still wet, we're going to add some white to this. Just dip some white, and the white will help to create that little cloud-like look, different values in the sky. Some darker blues, create some lighter blues. It's about halfway, so we're there. All right, nice. Blend it up. Just blend it up. That's good. So we want to work on the sea. We're going to start again. Just blend it in. Nice. Spread that out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now it's just let loose.
Yes.
All right.
We're going to add some more blue here at the bottom. Try to.
All right, so we're down to the last few minutes, so let's see. We'll do the speed round version.
So you notice the sky where it's light. When you add that blue, it makes the area darker, so you create like we call a contrast. So differentiate between the sky and the sea. Just the same thing we did with the sky is the same thing we're going to do with the sea. So let's go and spread that out.
Oh, that's why.
Okay.
What I like about our classes online too is that the students who want to advance to the other groups, they can move on from beginners into intermediate.
How low are we going?
Right about, let's say about the
just tell me how
far away.
Just tell me where to go.
Yes, all the way down. That's all right. I'm going to put a little yellow in this to create a little distinction. Maybe we create a little, like a little greenish look on the sea, almost like a little. I want it to blend it to blue. So, yes, little waves. You want some squiggly lines. Don't want to look too green because blue and yellow give us green. So give it a nice little. We want to differentiate between the sky and the sea. That's the idea there.
I feel like I'm in Bob Ross's video.
I know a lot of us grew up with Bob Ross.
Yes.
He was one of our PBS icons.
Yes, and that's what you're talking. You want to give it a little green here.
And then when they start to talk about Bob Ross, it kind of tells of our generation, right? So let's go and mix it up with the yellow. Blend that in.
Okay. Next
blend
up.
it in. Go a little wavy like this. Yeah? Back and forth. Jaggedy.
Jaggedy.
Yes, man. And you see, you're not an artist. All right, that's nice. That's nice. So, well, if you want, like you could add some white to that. You don't have to. And you notice the water helps to dilute the paint to make it transparent. It also lightens it as well. So for the beach, we're going to add some brown and white with brown. And probably some blue on top of that.
Okay.
So you go ahead. Remember, the beach is not even, so you don't want no smooth edges. Yes, you can make it jaggy as you would like. I didn't wash out my paintbrush. Just go ahead. Normally, I tell the students, once you're changing colors, like for the beginners, you want to wash out the paintbrush so the colors don't contaminate.
This goes all the way to the bottom?
All the way to the bottom. That is the beach. That's the land. You can add some white to that. You can add some touch of black to give it some darker values.
All right.
Just
sure.
use the canvas.
I think I put too much.
It's all right.
I had to mess up my fingers.
It's all right. So you could hold it on the edge like this if you don't want to.
I have a black sand beach here.
It's all right.
That's fine. There's a pink beach
I'm
somewhere in the world.
I'm on a volcanic island.
There's a
Hawaii, man. Hawaii right there. Good.
All right.
So we have a nice little scenery here. We will put some coconut tree here. So we're going to use
coconut trees.
We're going to use white because we want to create a little contrast there before we add any color. Everybody good? Am I going too fast? That's all right. Nice. Awesome. Excellent work.
All right.
So let's start with white. You already have white on your
teacher class is up now. Let's see what we can do to close it off.
Yes.
When it comes to coconut trees or any tree, you always want to remember gravity. That the trunks are widest at the ground level, and then as you go higher, it gets thinner and thinner. You don't want to go too wide at the top and narrow at the bottom because then it topple over, right? And then, so when you do your coconut tree, you could try it. That's all right. That's all right. That's good. Yes, man. Excellent. Then just fill that space in. You could add brown. You could add any color. This is an imaginary scene. It doesn't have to be realistic. So your coconut leaves doesn't have to look exactly the same. Just the idea of how to construct it and create it. Let's see how you do the leaves quickly, and then you can finish up afterwards. Sometimes I tell my students, take a pause, look at what I'm doing, and then you can follow afterwards. So when you do the coconut tree, the leaves, you start with a little arc, and then you have some lines coming down. I notice a student not paying attention there.
Who, me? This student move ahead into the book and never wait for instructions.
That's all right. That's all right. And that's the good thing about art. Art give you observation skills. So even while I'm painting like this, I can notice what my students are doing. So I'm still watching both of you while doing this. So there's a lot of lines we use here, a lot of lines we're doing here. So I have a nice little coconut tree there.
All right. I like my sky and sea. The rest is Alvin.
Well, this is like a crash course, right?
I know, right?
So you cannot to create an excellent or a good piece of
Yeah.
art, you need at least 3 hours
This was
of work.
This was the 5-minute version.
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep mine entirely abstract. No,
Yes, man.
no fine lines
You
detectable.
could add more coconut trees afterwards.
All right, so
Right,
that's what we
nice.
got there.
All right. Yes, man. That's good.
All right.
excellent.
Kirkland, this is a crash course.
Mhm.
I'm going to leave. April is very dedicated towards completing her trees.
that's
So
fine.
I want to say thank you for coming in. Once again, how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in joining any of the classes?
They can email me
Mhm.
at ksmith3teach@gmail.com, or they can call or WhatsApp 628-6122.
All
My
right.
contact. Once you
And
call WhatsApp, I respond as quick
You
as
do
possible.
small groups face to face, and
Yes.
you do bigger online classes.
Yes.
Family
Children,
classes.
adults, beginner, intermediate, or advanced.
Advanced.
All of it is possible.
And also, including that, you have training for the CSEC Visual Arts for high schoolers, and you have Cape Art and Design for tertiary level students. And I have teacher training too for pedagogical
Nice.
skills in how to teach art
Okay.
to children as well.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
too.
in, allowing us to have some art therapy this morning.
Yes.
That is it for us, April. We're out of time.
We tried.
Yeah.
We tried. We
You
think
did
we
excellent.
did.
A plus
We'll
art
continue
students.
painting as we go to
Yes.
a close.
Yes.
Remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
And start your morning, right?
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.